My name's Pete Woods, you're watching Hexhamtv. Who are you?
So my name's Vanessa Jardine and I'm the Chief Constable of Northumbria Police.
So Vanessa, you've returned recently to Northumbria. Tell us a little bit about your general policing background.
So I joined Greater Manchester Police, which is where I'm from. My family are from Stockport in Greater Manchester. Pretty much 29 years ago this July. I spent 25 years in Greater Manchester Police. I was a detective at pretty much every rank. And then in 2016 over to 2017 I came here as a temporary ACC. And then went on to work in West Midlands Police for the last 4 years, both as an Assistant Chief Constable and then latterly as the Deputy Chief Constable, and rejoined Northumbria Police in April this year.
So on return to Northumbria Police as the Chief Constable, what are your priorities for this force and for the communities in Northumbria?
Our overriding priority is to keep people safe across Northumbria. But I believe that the way to do that is by adopting a preventative and problem-solving approach. So we should be looking to prevent crime, we should be looking to get ahead of demand, and I think very often policing feels that it's just, servicing the demand. But I want communities to recognise Northumbria Police as an organisation that is looking after them, is protecting them. And I think that the way to do that is to talk to the community, get out there, talk to communities, understand their needs, understand what they want to see from their police force in order that we can deliver the right service for them.
So it's been quite tough in terms of sort of finances generally for policing sort of across the country. You have to sort of cut your cloth with the resources that you have.
Yeah.
But you're also recruiting more officers, aren't you? And you're taking on more officers sort of quite regularly. Are you up to sort of the numbers that you've wanted to reach, or are you still in a recruiting mode?
So we're still recruiting. We have reached our uplift target that we were set by the government. In fact, we've exceeded that by a number of officers because we had a commitment that we wanted to go higher than that. But we're always constantly recruiting. We want to maintain our numbers of certainly of police officers at this moment in time, and that's a really important thing that we do. And we'll make sure that we have the right budget in order that we can do that.
What would you say to someone who perhaps hasn't got a background in policing, but perhaps might be interested in joining Northumbria Police? What would you say about starting a career or changing a career to join Northumbria Police?
Policing is a fantastic career. I was speaking to our new recruits this week on day one of their career. I've got now, as I said, 29 years in policing. It's fantastic. If you want a career where you're helping people, you're solving problems, every day is different, you literally don't know what's round the next corner, it's challenging, but it's also extremely rewarding, then this is absolutely the right career for you.
So we've talked about resources and particularly in rural areas, places like market towns like Hexham, but in Northumberland and the wider area. Sometimes people say, well, I don't see police officers like I used to, and that can induce some sort of sense of fear or that perhaps that they're on their own.
Yeah.
What would you say to people living in rural areas about how you're going to tackle crime and support them?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's something, even in my short time here, I've heard an awful lot. I've been out to Hexham, I'm going back out to Hexham again. It's a great place, but I do recognise that very often rural communities, don't see the police as much as perhaps you would in some of our more urban areas. We're going to do a series of operations over the summer, which will absolutely include the rural areas, where we're going to come out, we're going to do traditional things, arresting people, carrying out warrants and being very visible, but we're also going to use it as an opportunity to talk to communities about what they need. My message to the rural communities is Northumbria Police is absolutely here for you. They have my commitment as the new Chief Constable that we will be. We want to listen to them and we want to understand how we can reassure them of the service that we are delivering for them. One of the things I'm particularly interested in is where we are based in the rural communities, because we've very traditionally been based in in police stations, and whilst the public don't necessarily visit those police stations, it makes them feel safe knowing that there is a police presence there. And I think we can do much more about that. So, for example, I've already been speaking with Northumberland County Council about how we can sort of work in partnership and collaboration with them to use some of their facilities, things like mobile libraries that go out into rural communities. Could we have a police presence in those so that we are getting out and about? Because we can't have a police station in every community, and I recognise that. But I do think there's a lot more we can do to say to the community, we are here and we are visibly here for you, which we know reassures them and makes them feel safer.
Now, very sadly in Hexham we had the tragic case of Holly Newton.
Yeah.
Now, obviously that case is going through
Yeah.
the courts, and you can't talk
No.
about that case specifically. But in terms of knife crime across the Northumbria force area, what is the situation with knife? What is the current situation with knife crime, and what are the police doing to try and prevent these violent offences with knives occurring?
So you're absolutely right. The tragic death of Holly, and you know, my thoughts go out to Holly's family and friends. It was just tragic. We take knife crime very, very seriously. It's one of our priorities, and we're doing things in a number of different ways. So we surge police officers and police staff into areas where there is knife crime to give that high visibility patrolling, you know, to tackle, to stop people, to search people where appropriate. But we also work very closely with the Violence Reduction Partnership as well, because we have to get ahead of this. And I talked about prevention earlier on. We have to stop young people carrying knives in the first place. And very often what we see is that young people feel that they need to carry a knife, whether that's for kudos, whether they feel it's for protection. And we need families and communities to work with us in that. So, for example, often young people will take a knife from a family home. So, you know, do people notice when there's perhaps a knife missing out of the drawer? And we need to work with people to talk to them about that. But we also need to engage very heavily with the young people. We're in schools, we're talking to people, we're educating people with the Violence Reduction Partnership as well, putting in longer term solutions, because that's the way to stop this. It's far too late when something tragic happens to jump and start to do activity then, and we're doing an awful lot at that preventative end of policing, because that's where we need to make a real difference.
Policing is a partnership between the public and the police service. What would you ask local communities to do in terms of supporting the police? What opportunities are there to support your work and the police's work in local communities?
There's a number of different ways, and the obvious one is to tell us when things are happening. You know, that intelligence is so important to us. But also, and particularly in the rural communities, we have a large number of volunteers who work with us. So, for example, rural crime volunteers who are absolutely fantastic, give up their time but work with us because they know the community, they know the areas very well, and they support us in that volunteering. So people can absolutely volunteer with us, but people need to engage with us, tell us when things are happening in their area, because if we don't know that, then we can't act upon that, you know, and take some positive action.
In terms of police officers work through the COVID period very courageously. Frontline staff like the NHS and other public services, teachers. What message do you have for police officers in Northumbria during your term of office as Chief Constable? What would you see as, how would you like to support those officers and police staff?
One of the things I'm doing at the moment as part of my sort of new tenure in getting to know the forces, I'm going out and about across the force and speaking to officers. Firstly, to thank them for the job that they do, because they do a very difficult job in very difficult circumstances, and they are very brave in what they do, and they are there 24 hours a day for people. So I want to thank them, but I also, you know, want to support them as well. You know, well-being is really, really important for our officers. The fact that they recognise what's available to them, and that's at all different levels. You know, right from counselling when they deal with traumatic traumatic incidents, right to recognising the work that they do with awards and award ceremonies. I want the staff to know what a great job they do, because it's very difficult, at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're on your own and you're perhaps patrolling there. But I also want the community to recognise that Northumbria Police is a police force for the community, and that Northumbria officers are very proud of what they do. They're very passionate about what they do, and they want to protect people and keep people safe. And I think there's a joint thing with the community recognising that, but also that I recognise that and support them in every way I can.
Now we're in Pride Month at the moment.
Yes.
You are the Chief Constable's lead on diversity issues.
Yes.
How do you think the police service as a whole has moved forward during your term of office, your career, in terms of dealing with diversity issues? And have we got it right? What else is there still to do?
So I think we've come an awful long way when I think about when I started in Greater Manchester Police all those years ago, but we've still got an awful lot more to do as well. What we use this phrase, policing should represent the communities it serves, and that is across, diversity. And the reason that's so important is that the community needs to see itself in its police force, because obviously, UK policing works on legitimacy, and we have to have legitimacy with our communities. So it's really important that we are as diverse as we can be, so that communities have confidence to report things to us. But it's really important internally as well that officers and staff can bring their whole self, so be true to themselves and feel they can be themselves at work. And whilst we have come an awful long way, we've still got a long way to go. And my role sort of nationally is to support policing, is to support officers and staff, and make sure that we continue to do that. And Pride is just, one example of how we can do that. By participating in Pride events. Again, it's good for our officers, but also it's great for communities who can look at us and think the police do support us. They recognise me in the community, and they're here to help and support me in the community.
And finally, what would you say to people who are suffering crime, perhaps silently at the moment? So people like either domestic violence or perhaps child abuse or elder abuse, people who haven't come forward yet, perhaps they're scared or unsure of the reaction they're going to get from Northumbria Police. What would you say to those silent victims about the importance of taking that first step and approaching the police?
I know how traumatic, having dealt with many victims of the crime, such as crimes that you've just said, and how difficult it is for them to sort of get that courage and confidence to come and talk to the police. But when they're ready, we will be listening, and we are ready, and we are here, and we are waiting for them. They will receive the best care from us, empathy around whatever the traumatic incident is. And I would just say to them, don't suffer on your own. If you don't feel confident enough to talk to the police, perhaps, there are loads of different agencies out there, loads of different victim support services that can offer that link in to us. Don't suffer alone. If you don't feel confident, have a look on our website. There's different agencies listed on our website. We are there for you, but there's also a lot of other people that there can support and help if you're just not quite ready to talk to the police. But I would encourage anybody to come and talk to us.
Chief Constable, thank you very much for talking to Hexhamtv.
Thank you very much.